The first time my little brother put his fist through a wall, my mother didn't flinch. She just stared at the jagged hole in the drywall like it was a leaky faucet and said, very calmly, "He's just stressed." Stressed. Like the wall had offended him. Like the house had pushed him first. I stood in our childhood hallway in suburban Columbus, Ohio, with powdery white dust floating in the air, and I remember thinking, if I say the wrong thing right now, they'll make this my fault too. That was the pattern in my family. Evan broke things. I cleaned them up. Evan screamed. I lowered my voice. Evan threatened people. I was told to be the bigger person. And my parents, my sweet, church on Sunday casserole to the neighbor's parents, wrapped him in excuses the way other parents wrap kids in blankets. He's overwhelmed. He's got anxiety. He's under so much pressure. He didn't mean it. He's a good boy, Chloe. He's always been a good boy. I'm Chloe Hart. I'm 36. I live 40 minutes away from my parents now, in a modest townhouse. I bought myself with a job I fought to keep, and a peace I fought even harder to earn. And for most of my life, if you asked my parents about their kids, they'd tell you Evan was their miracle, and I was dependable, the one who understood, the one who didn't need as much, the one they called when something needed to be fixed. Money, rides, apologies, broken doors, bruised relationships, and once, a shattered windshield. But the night everything changed didn't begin with shouting. It began with a text from my mom that said, "Can you come by tonight? Your dad is worried about Evan." When your mother texts you that, you don't think, he's going to hurt someone. You think, he relapsed again. Because by then, again had become a family language. Evan is 4 years younger than me. When we were kids, he was the kind of little boy teachers adored. Big smile, messy hair, old soul, always hugging adults like he was born knowing how to charm them. I was the quiet one, the one who got straight A's, made my own lunch, and learned early that praise in our house came with a cost. You had to stay easy. Evan could be difficult and still be loved. I could be loved only if I was useful. In high school, he was the star. Football, parties, that little wave he'd give from the field like he was already famous. My parents kept his trophies in the living room. Mine went to a shelf in my bedroom. Not because they didn't care, they said. Because mine were expected. Evans were celebrated. By college, the cracks started to show. A DUI that my dad called a mistake. A fight outside a bar that my mom called boys being boys. A semester he dropped out that they called a break. Then came pain pills after a shoulder injury. Then something stronger. Then the slow, brutal shift where the person you know gets replaced by someone who looks like them but isn't. It didn't happen all at once. It happened in little moments. Evan borrowing money and not paying it back. Evan showing up at Thanksgiving with dilated pupils and sweating through his shirt. Evan disappearing to the bathroom for too long. Evan snapping at my dad over nothing. Evan calling my mom a name I'd never heard a son call his mother. But my parents never stopped believing in the version of him they wanted. So every time I tried to name what was happening, I got corrected. Don't label him. Don't talk about your brother like that. You don't understand addiction, Chloe. He needs compassion. Stop being so judgmental. Judgmental, because apparently, noticing the pattern of theft, lies, rage, and broken furniture was a character flaw. The truth was, I did understand compassion. I'd been living inside it like a cage. When Evan was 26, he moved back in with my parents, temporarily. Temporary lasted 2 years. It was supposed to be until he gets steady, then until he finds a place, then until he finishes outpatient, then until he gets a job, then until he saves a little, then until he calms down. And during that 2 years, my parents' house became a place everyone tiptoed through like the floor might collapse. My mother started keeping her purse in her bedroom. My father started locking the garage. They installed a ring camera for safety, but never admitted what kind of safety they meant. And every time Evan exploded, they cleaned up the wreckage and called it love. I watched them shrink in their own home. My mom stopped inviting friends over. My dad stopped hosting game nights. Their laughter thinned out like someone had turned the volume down. But they'd still look at Evan like he was their golden boy who just needed one more chance. And I, because I was the one who understood, got pulled in as the designated helper. Chloe, can you talk to him? Chloe, can you bring groceries? Chloe, can you help us get him to a meeting? Chloe, can you lend him your car for an interview? That last one is the one that taught me to stop believing in their version of just this once. It was a Tuesday in March. I had a client presentation at 9. Evan called at 7:15, voice overly sweet, which is how you know it's about to be bad. "Hey, sis," he said, "I'm in a bind." I was in my kitchen with my laptop open, coffee brewing, wearing a blazer I'd ironed the night before because I was trying, desperately, to look like a woman who had her life together. "What kind of bind?" I asked. "My ride fell through," he said. "I have this interview, real interview, construction union job, benefits. I swear I'm serious." I should have said no right then, but my mother had called me the night before, crying softly, saying, "Please, Chloe, he's trying. Just help him this time. He listens to you." So I drove my car to my parents' house at 7:45 and handed Evan my keys on the porch like I was passing him a fragile glass. "Bring it back by 10, I said. "I'm not kidding. I have work." He smiled and kissed my cheek the way he used to when he was 16 and wanted money for the movies. "You're the best," he said, and then he was gone. At 10:30, I called. Voicemail. At 11, my boss messaged, asking where the deliverables were. At noon, I called again. Voicemail. At 2, my mother called me and said, "Honey, don't panic. He probably just got caught up." At 3, a number I didn't know called me. It was a police officer. My car had been found on the side of the road near a gas station, engine running, driver's door open, no one inside. There was damage to the passenger side. The officer asked if I wanted to press charges. I remember my hand shaking so hard I dropped my phone on my lap. "Yes," I said automatically, because I thought the question meant, "Do you want your car back?" But when I told my parents, my mother's face went tight. "Press charges," she repeated like I'd said I wanted to set Evan on fire. My father rubbed his forehead and said, "Chloe, that's your brother." "He took my car," I said. "He damaged it and left it running on the road." "He was stressed," my mother said, as if that explained the dented metal. "He's under pressure," my father added. "You know how he gets." I stared at them both and felt something cold shift inside me, because in that moment they weren't just protecting Evan, they were asking me to accept being collateral damage as a normal cost of loving him. I did not press charges that day. I went to the impound lot, paid the fee, and drove my damaged car home with my jaw clenched so tight my teeth hurt. That was the day I promised myself. The next time he crosses a line that could hurt me, I will treat it like what it is. But promises are easy to make when you're not standing in front of the person you love most, watching their life fall apart. The next time came anyway. It always does. My relationship with my parents became a series of careful phone calls. I stopped dropping by just because. I stopped offering money. I stopped answering Evan's texts. I learned to keep my tone warm and my boundaries firm, which is a skill no one teaches you, but a lot of women have to learn like it's survival. My parents didn't like it. They'd say things like, "We miss you." But what they meant was, "We miss the version of you who makes this easier." On a Friday in late October, my mom called me around 6 and asked if I could come to dinner. "Just us," she promised. "No drama. Evan's been doing better." That phrase, "doing better," had been used on Evan so many times it had lost meaning. But I missed my parents. I missed who they used to be before every day became about managing Evan's moods. So I went. I brought a pie from the grocery store because that's what you do when you want a family dinner to feel normal. Their house looked the same from the outside. Porch light on, pumpkins by the steps, a faded wreath on the door. Inside, it smelled like roast chicken and lemon cleaner. My mom hugged me too tight. My dad tried to make small talk about the Buckeyes. For 20 minutes, it worked. It almost felt like a regular family again. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway, heavy and uneven. Evan walked into the kitchen with a wild energy around him, like static. His eyes were bright and too alert. His jaw worked side to side as if he was chewing something invisible. He looked at me and grinned. "Well, look who finally decided to show up," he said. I kept my voice calm. "Hi, Evan." He leaned against the counter, too close to me, and said, "You got any cash?" My mother flinched so subtly I almost missed it. "Evan," she warned gently, like he was a toddler reaching for a hot stove. "It's just a question," he snapped, eyes flicking to her. "God." I looked at my mom. "Is he okay?" She forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "He's fine. He's just tired." Evan laughed, sharp and humorless. "Yeah," he said. "Tired of being treated like a criminal in my own house." My dad cleared his throat. "Why don't we sit down?" We tried to eat. Evan poked at his food and kept making little comments, like he couldn't stand silence. "So, Chloe," he said, chewing loudly, "how's the fancy job?" "It's good," I said. "Must be nice," he muttered. "Some of us don't get everything handed to us." I actually blinked because the irony hit so hard it felt like a slap. "Handed to you?" I repeated before I could stop myself. My mother's eyes snapped to mine, warning. Evan's face changed instantly. The grin dropped. The air got thick. "What did you say?" he asked. I set my fork down. "Nothing. I'm not doing this." "Doing what?" he demanded, voice rising. "Telling the truth? You always act like you're better than me." "I don't," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "But I'm not giving you money." My mom jumped in quickly. "Honey, nobody's asking you for—" "Yes, you are," Evan barked, slamming his palm on the table. Plates rattled. My mother flinched again, harder this time. My dad's face went pale. "Evan," he said sharply. Evan stood so fast his chair scraped the floor. "You know what?" he snapped. "Forget it. I don't need any of you." He turned and kicked his chair back. It tipped, hit the wall, and left a dent. My mom gasped. Evan's head whipped toward her, eyes burning. "Stop acting like I'm hurting you. God, you're dramatic." I stood up. "Evan, back up." He stepped toward me instead. "What are you gonna do?" he said, voice low and taunting. "Call the cops like you want to?" My mother moved between us, hands out like a referee. "Please," she whispered. "Not tonight. Please." And there it was again. Not stop. Not. "This isn't okay, just please don't make this harder for us." Evan shoved past her shoulder, not hard enough to knock her down, but hard enough to make her stumble. I heard my father's breath catch. That was the moment my chest went cold, because it wasn't just walls anymore. It wasn't just cars. He put his hands on my mother, even if he called it an accident, even if they called it stress. My voice came out sharper than I intended. "Evan, don't touch her." Evan whirled on me. "Oh my God," he snarled. You're always making me the villain." Then he stormed into the living room and, like a child throwing a tantrum, swept the bowl of candy off the coffee table with his arm. It crashed, glass and wrappers everywhere. My mother cried out. My father rushed forward. "That's enough." Evan's head snapped up. "Or what?" he shouted. "You gonna kick me out? You gonna stop loving me?" He said it like a dare, like he knew the answer. My mom's face crumpled. "Evan, no." Evan turned and grabbed the framed family photo off the mantel, one of those glossy ones from a Christmas portrait session years ago. Me in a green sweater, hair curled. Evan in a blazer, smiling wide. My parents glowing like they'd done everything right. He lifted it like he was going to throw it. My mother screamed, "Evan!" My father lunged toward him, and Evan swung his elbow back without thinking. It caught my dad in the cheek. Not a full punch, but enough. Enough to make my father stumble and clutch his face, eyes shocked. Enough to make my mother freeze, hands over her mouth. Enough to make the room tilt. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. Evan blinked like he'd surprised himself too. For one split second, he looked like he might apologize. Then his face hardened again. "He walked into me," Evan snapped. My mother whispered, "Oh my God." And then, like the universe wanted to make the choice for me, Evan turned toward the front door. "I'm leaving," he said. "And if you try to stop me, I swear—" He didn't finish the sentence, but he didn't need to, because his eyes said it. I stepped toward my dad, who was now bleeding a little, and I felt something in me click into place. Not rage, not panic, clarity. I pulled my phone out of my purse. My mother saw it and shook her head, tears spilling. "Chloe, no, please." My dad looked at me with a mixture of fear and shame. Evan barked a laugh. "Oh, she's doing it. The hero's calling the cops." My hands were steady. I dialed 911. My mother grabbed my wrist. "He's just stressed," she sobbed. "He didn't mean it. Please, Chloe, please." I looked at her, really looked, and saw a woman who had been living in quiet terror for too long and calling it love because she didn't know what else to call it. I gently pulled my wrist free. "Mom," I said, voice low, "this isn't stress." And then the dispatcher answered. 911, what's your emergency?" I took a breath. "My brother is violent," I said. "He just hit my father. He's destroying property. We need police." Evan's face changed instantly. Fear flashed, then fury. "You're doing this to me," he hissed. I ignored him. "We're at—" I gave the address. "He's here now. He's acting erratically. We feel unsafe." My mother sank into a chair, sobbing into her hands. My dad sat down slowly, pressing a towel to his cheek. Evan paced like a caged animal. "You think you're so perfect," he spat at me. "You think you're better than me because you have a job, and you pay your bills and you never had any fun." I kept my eyes on the floor, listening to the dispatcher's instructions. "Are there any weapons in the house?" she asked. My stomach tightened. My mom had a kitchen knife block. My dad had a tool set in the garage. Evan had hands. "I don't see one," I said, "but I don't know what he might grab." Evan laughed again. "Oh my God, you're talking about me like I'm a monster." My mother lifted her head, tears streaking down her face. "Evan," she whispered, "stop." Evan turned on her. "You're not even on my side?" he snapped. My mother flinched like he'd slapped her. And that's when I knew this was never going to get better with conversations. This was going to get better with consequences. The police arrived within minutes, but it felt like an hour. Red and blue lights washed over the living room walls. Someone knocked hard on the door. Evan froze. His bravado drained like water. My dad called out, "We're here." 2 officers stepped inside, calm but alert. One spoke gently, asking what happened. The other watched Evan closely. Evan tried to charm them at first. "I didn't do anything," he said, palms up. "They're exaggerating. My sister hates me." The officer's face stayed neutral. "Sir, can you sit down?" Evan rolled his eyes. "Seriously, this is ridiculous." My dad spoke quietly, voice shaking. "He hit me." Evan snapped. "You walked into me." My mother tried to soften it. "It was an accident. He's just stressed." I saw the officer's eyes flick to her, then back to me, like he was trying to figure out who was actually telling the truth. So I said it clearly. "He shoved my mom. He hit my dad. He's been violent before. We are not safe when he's like this." Evan's head whipped toward me. "You traitor!" The officer's posture shifted. "Sir," he said firmly, "stand up. Turn around." Evan's face drained of color. "Chloe," my mother sobbed, "please." My dad didn't say anything. He just kept pressing the towel to his face, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Evan jerked back. No. You're not arresting me. I didn't do anything." The officers moved fast. Calm, practiced. Hands behind his back, click of cuffs. Evan shouted like a wounded animal. "Mom, Dad, tell them. Tell them she's lying." My mother stood trembling. "He's not a bad boy," she whispered helplessly to no one in particular. One officer looked at her and said gently, "Ma'am, sometimes good people make dangerous choices. Tonight we're responding to violence." Evan's eyes went wild. "You're ruining my life." I looked at him, at the boy I used to share cereal with in front of Saturday cartoons, the teenager I once drove to practice, the man who now stood cuffed in my parents' living room. And I realized I'd been asking myself the wrong question for years. Not, how do we save Evan? But how long do we let Evan destroy everyone else? They took him out to the squad car. My mother collapsed onto the couch, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. My father sat beside her, staring at the floor, and I stood there in the wreckage, glass on the carpet, dent in the wall, chair tipped over. My father's blood on a towel, and I felt something strange. Not satisfaction, not victory, relief. Because for the first time, the truth was visible. It was undeniable. It was no longer just something I carried alone. After the officers left, the house fell into a silence that wasn't peaceful. It was stunned. My mom finally looked at me with swollen eyes. "How could you do that?" she whispered. I swallowed. "How could you let it get to this?" My father's voice came out hoarse. "Chloe, he's going to hate us." I stared at the shattered candy bowl on the floor. "I can live with him hating me," I said quietly. "I can't live with him hurting you." My mom shook her head violently. "He's sick. He needs help." "I know," I said, "and he won't get it if nothing changes." My mother's mouth trembled. "People will talk." That's what she said. Not, "I'm scared." Not, "He hurt your father." Not, "I'm sorry." People will talk. I felt something harden in me again. "Let them," I said. That night I went home and sat in my car in my driveway for a long time before I went inside. My hands were still steady, but my chest hurt in a deep, bruised way, like grief. Because calling the police on your own brother is not a clean kind of bravery. It's messy. It's nauseating. It makes you question yourself even when you know you did the right thing. I didn't sleep. I kept replaying my mom's face when she grabbed my wrist. He's just stressed. As if stress was a permission slip for violence. The next morning, my mom called me at 6:42 a.m. "He's in jail," she said, voice raw. "They're charging him with assault." I sat up in bed, heart pounding. "What did the officers say?" I asked. She sniffed. "They said Dad can press charges." "Dad should," I said. Silence. Then my mom's voice came out small. Chloe, can you help us bail him out? I actually laughed, but it came out like a sob. Mom, I said, you cannot be serious. He's our son, she whispered. And Dad is your husband, I said. He's bleeding because of your son. My mom's voice sharpened. You don't get it. If he's in there, he'll get worse. You don't get it, I said, my voice rising. If you keep saving him, he will never stop. She started crying again. He's just stressed, Chloe. He needs his family. I closed my eyes and felt that old instinct, fix it, smooth it, make it easier, rise in me like a reflex. And then I remembered my father's blood on that towel. No, I said. My mother went silent. Then, coldly, so you're just abandoning him. I'm protecting myself, I said, and I'm protecting you, even if you don't want it. She hung up. I went to work anyway, because that's what women like me do. We keep functioning even when our insides are shaking. But all day, my phone buzzed with messages from family members I barely talked to. My aunt. How could you call the police on Evan? My cousin. He's struggling. You're making it worse. My uncle. Family handles family. You don't involve the cops. And beneath every message, I could hear my mother's voice. People will talk. That weekend, I drove to my parents' house again. Not for dinner, because dinner wasn't a thing anymore, but to talk about what came next. My dad opened the door with a faint bruise on his cheekbone and a look in his eyes that made my stomach twist. My mom was in the living room, tissues everywhere, eyes red. They looked like a couple who'd been hit by a storm. I sat down across from them and said, "We need to talk about safety." My mom's jaw tightened. He's not a monster. I didn't say he was, I replied. I said we need to be safe. My dad cleared his throat. The officer gave us a pamphlet, he said quietly, about protective orders. My mom's head snapped toward him. We are not doing that. My dad flinched. Then, for the first time in years, he didn't retreat. He hit Como Jiao Bang the first time Nua Al. My mother's ringtone used to make my stomach tighten before I even picked up. Not because I didn't love her, because I knew what her voice would mean. A problem. A mess. An apology wrapped in a demand. And almost always it would end with the same sentence. Soft as sugar. Sharp as a blade. Be the bigger person, honey. He's your brother. My brother Tyler was the golden boy in our house, the way some families have a golden retriever. Always forgiven, always welcomed back, always treated like his chaos was just a phase you cleaned up after and laughed about later. Except Tyler wasn't a phase. Tyler was 30. Tyler was 6'2", built from a lifetime of high school football, and the kind of entitlement that grows when people keep saving you from consequences. Tyler was the son my dad bragged about at barbecues. My boy's got a big heart. And the son my mom defended in Facebook comments. He's misunderstood. And Tyler was also the person who had punched holes through our hallway drywall, thrown a chair through my mom's kitchen window, screamed so close to my face, I could feel spit on my cheeks. And once, when I tried to stop him from grabbing my car keys, twisted my wrist until I cried out. But in my family, that wasn't called violence. It was called stress. It was called a rough patch. It was called, he's going through a lot. My name is Lauren Brooks. I'm 34. I live outside Columbus, Ohio, in a small townhouse that I bought with my own credit score and my own stubborn pride, 2 exits down from the IKEA and close enough to my work that I can still make it to a Tuesday staff meeting without sweating through my blouse. I'm the kind of woman who keeps an emergency kit in her trunk. Jumper cables, bottled water, a phone charger, granola bars. My therapist once told me that people like me grow up learning that safety is something you build yourself because no one else will. I didn't understand that fully until the night I dialed 911 on my own brother, while my mother screamed into the phone at me, "Lauren, don't you dare do this to him." And I did it anyway, because by then, being the bigger person wasn't a virtue. It was a slow way to disappear. When Tyler and I were kids, the difference between us was invisible to other people. But in our house, it was written into the air like humidity. I was the responsible one. He was the special one. I learned early how to read my parents' moods by the sound of cabinets closing. I learned that if my dad's boots hit the front steps too hard, it meant he'd had a bad day, and I should make myself small. Tyler learned something else. Tyler learned that if he made enough noise, the whole room would rearrange itself around him. If Tyler failed a math test, my mom would make flashcards and sit at the table with him every night, smiling, patient, gentle. If I failed a math test, my dad would say, "You're smarter than this, Lauren." Like disappointment was supposed to motivate me. If Tyler got in trouble for talking back to a teacher, my parents would march into the school, demand a meeting, and explain that Tyler was a leader, and leaders can be intense. If I got in trouble, it was because I should have known better. It was small at first. A tilt of my mom's head toward him when he walked into the room. A laugh at his jokes even when they weren't funny. A hand on his shoulder. A secret wink. As if they were always on the same team. Then the stakes got bigger. When Tyler was 17, he drove my dad's pickup into a mailbox because he'd been texting his friends. And my dad paid the homeowner in cash and told Tyler, "You can't do that again." When I was 17, I got a B+ in AP chemistry, and my mom asked if I was distracted because college is competitive. When Tyler was 19, he got caught with weed in his car behind a gas station. My mom cried, my dad drove down to the police station, and Tyler came home that night with my parents' arms around him like he'd been rescued. When I was 19, I called my mom from my dorm bathroom because I'd gotten a UTI and was embarrassed and in pain, and she sighed like I was interrupting something. "You need to handle that," she said. "Go to the health center." I handled it. I handled everything. And then Tyler stopped being a kid making mistakes and started becoming something more dangerous. It happened the way rot happens in a house. Quietly at first, hidden behind walls, until suddenly the floor gives out. After community college didn't work out, Tyler bounced through jobs, landscaping, a warehouse, a construction crew. He'd start with big talk. "This is the one. I'm set now." And 2 months later, my mom would be whispering into her phone in the pantry, explaining to my aunt that his boss was toxic. His coworkers were jealous. He was better than that place anyway. And I would hear Tyler's laughter in the living room, loud, careless, like a man who'd never had to worry about anything really sticking. Then came the drinking. At first it was just beer. Then it was beer plus whiskey. Then it was showing up to family dinners with glassy eyes and a voice that ran too hot, too fast. Then it was the way he'd slam his hands on the table if my mom asked too many questions. Then it was the way my dad would watch him like a storm cloud, not confronting him, just waiting for it to pass. And then, one Thanksgiving, Tyler walked into my parents' house with a smile stretched too wide and pupils too tight and jittery hands, and I knew, in my bones, that it wasn't just alcohol anymore. He hugged my mom too hard, like he was performing affection. He clapped my dad on the back like they were buddies. Then he turned to me. "Lo," he said, dragging the nickname out, "my favorite sister. I'm his only sister." He leaned in too close. His breath smelled like mint gum and something chemical underneath. "Still doing your little office job?" he asked, loud enough for my aunt to hear. I smiled because that's what I did in my family. "I'm a project manager," I said, "and it's going well." Tyler laughed. "Project manager," he repeated like it was adorable. So you manage emails? My dad chuckled, not because it was funny, but because Tyler had spoken, and my dad couldn't stand the thought of Tyler being mad. My mom said, "Tyler, be nice." But she said it like a suggestion, not a boundary. Later, while I was carrying a dish of green beans into the dining room, Tyler brushed past me and muttered, "You always act like you're better than everybody." I froze in the doorway. "Excuse me?" I said. Tyler stopped and turned, eyes sharp. "You heard me," he said. "All dressed up, talking like you're a CEO. Meanwhile, you don't even have kids." My chest tightened. My aunt's laugh floated from the living room. Football commentators shouted in the background. The house smelled like turkey and cinnamon and denial. "You don't get to talk to me like that," I said, low. Tyler's lip curled. "Or what?" he said. My mom appeared suddenly like she'd been watching for danger, except the danger in her mind wasn't Tyler. It was conflict. "Lauren," she said quickly, "it's Thanksgiving. Let it go. He's just teasing." Teasing. That word became a blanket they threw over everything ugly. When Tyler called me a stuck-up at Christmas because I asked him not to smoke on the porch near the kids, it was teasing. When Tyler slammed my dad's garage door so hard the hinge cracked because my dad asked where he'd been, it was stress. When Tyler threw his phone across the kitchen because my mom wouldn't give him money, it was anxiety. When Tyler grabbed my mom's wrist and hissed, "Stop talking," it was him being overwhelmed. And when I said, "This isn't normal," my mom would stare at me like I was the one breaking the family apart. "Don't make him the villain," she'd say. "He has a good heart." I used to believe in Tyler's good heart the way you believe in a story you learned as a kid. The Tyler who built Lego towers with me on the carpet. The Tyler who defended me when a boy on the bus called me 4 eyes. The Tyler who once snuck into my room and left a candy bar on my pillow after our parents grounded me. I clung to those memories like they could balance out what was happening now, until the night I saw him punch our dad. It was late spring, humid, the kind of Ohio evening where everything feels sticky. I had stopped by my parents' house after work because my mom had begged me to help her set up for my cousin's graduation party. "Just for a couple hours," she said. "Please." I had learned by then that "please" from my mom meant, "If you don't do this, I will make you feel like a bad daughter." So I went. Tyler was there, sprawled on the couch, channel surfing, half a pizza box on the coffee table. He looked up when I walked in and smirked. "Well, look who decided to grace us," he said. I ignored him. I had gotten good at ignoring him. I went into the kitchen. My mom was arranging trays, talking too fast. Her voice pitched high like she was trying to keep the mood light. "Can you put the folding tables in the garage?" she asked me. "And maybe run to Kroger later? We need chips and soda." Tyler was supposed to help, but he's... She stopped herself. "He's tired," she finished. Tired. Tyler was always tired when it was time to help. My dad came in from the backyard, wiping his hands on a rag. "Tyler," he called, trying to sound casual. "You gonna help your mother out or what?" Tyler didn't look away from the TV. "In a minute," he said. My dad stood there, the rag twisted in his hands. "It's been in a minute for 2 hours," my dad said, voice tightening. "Get up." Tyler's jaw flexed. I said in a minute. My mom shot my dad a warning look. "Jim," she whispered, like he was about to do something inappropriate by expecting basic respect. My dad sighed, the kind of sigh that carried years. "Tyler," he said, firmer, "turn it off and get up." Tyler sat up slowly, like a cat deciding if it wanted to scratch you. He grabbed the remote and tossed it on the couch. "There," he said. "Happy?" My dad stepped closer. "You don't talk to me like that," he said. Tyler stood. You don't talk to me like I'm a child, he snapped. My mom rushed in between them, hands up. Okay, okay, she said. Everyone calm down. Tyler, just help with the tables. Jim, please. Tyler's eyes were wild, glittering. Why are you always on my case? He shouted at my dad. You treat her like she's perfect and me like I'm garbage. I almost laughed, the irony so sharp it hurt. I opened my mouth, but my mom's eyes flashed at me. Don't. My dad's face went red. Because she shows up, he said. Because she works. Because she doesn't sit on my couch all day waiting for mommy to feed her. The words hit Tyler like a match. He lunged. It happened so fast my brain didn't process it in order. Tyler's fist, my dad's head snapping back, my mom screaming. The sound of something crashing as my dad stumbled into the counter. And then my dad, hand on his cheek, eyes shocked. Not angry, shocked, like he had finally realized that the monster had been living in his house. Tyler breathed hard, chest heaving. Say it again, he said. Say it again, and I swear. I moved without thinking. I stepped between them, palms up. Tyler, I said, low and steady. Back up. He turned to me, eyes narrowing like I had betrayed him. Oh, he said. Here she comes. St. Lauren, the family hero. My mom grabbed his arm. Tyler, she sobbed. Please, please. He yanked away. You always choose him, he yelled at her. You always choose her. I'm the only one who matters around here, and you treat me like I'm nothing. He grabbed the pizza box and flung it. Grease and crust and cardboard scattered across the living room carpet. Then he stormed out the front door, slamming it so hard the frame rattled. My mom collapsed against the counter, shaking. My dad stared at the floor, breathing slow, like he was trying not to explode. And I stood there with my heart banging against my ribs, thinking one clear thought. This is going to get worse. I looked at my mom. We need to call someone, I said. We need help. He needs rehab. He needs... My mom's head snapped up. No, she said fierce. Do not say that. Do not label him. Mom, I said, voice cracking. He just hit Dad. My mom's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed sharp. He's under pressure, she insisted. He's not himself. He's stressed. Stressed, as if stress makes you punch your father. My dad finally spoke. His voice was hoarse. Maybe Lauren's right, he muttered. Maybe we need... My mom turned on him. Don't you start, she said. You know how sensitive he is. You know how he gets when he feels attacked. My dad blinked, stunned, like he'd been slapped twice. I watched the way my mother's protectiveness locked onto Tyler like a reflex, even after what he'd done. And something in me shifted. Not a dramatic snap, not a movie moment, more like a slow door closing. A part of me that had been hoping for years that my parents would finally see what I saw, finally name it, finally stand with me, started to accept the truth. They weren't going to. They were going to keep calling it stress until one of us got seriously hurt. After that night, I started taking my own safety seriously in a way I hadn't before. I stopped going to my parents' house alone if I knew Tyler might be there. I parked my car on the street instead of the driveway, so I couldn't be boxed in. I kept my phone charged and my keys in my pocket, not on the counter. And when my mom called and said, "Tyler's doing better," I learned to ask one question. "Has he gotten treatment?" I'd say. My mom would pause. "Well, not exactly," she'd say, like I was being unreasonable. "But he's cutting back." Cutting back. On what? Chaos? Then came the night Tyler broke my windshield. It was a Friday. I had worked a full day and stopped at Target for detergent and a new shower curtain because mine had started growing mildew in the corner and I was trying, in small ways, to make my life feel clean and controlled. I came home, carried my bags inside, fed my cat, and finally sat down on my couch with a microwaved bowl of mac and cheese. My phone buzzed. Mom. I stared at it, debating. I answered because some old training still lived in me. Hi, I said. My mom's voice was breathless. Lauren, she said. Are you home? Yes, I said slowly. Why? Okay, she said quickly. Don't panic. He's upset. He came by here earlier and he's not thinking clearly. I just want you to be careful. My skin went cold. Where is he? I asked. I don't know, she admitted. He left. He took his car. Jim tried to stop him, and it turned into a thing. What kind of thing? I demanded. My mom hesitated. He shoved your father, she said softly. But it's okay. Jim's fine. Tyler's just stressed, I finished. Voice flat. My mom sniffed. Lauren, please don't be like that. He's your brother. He's hurting. I swallowed hard. Did he say he was coming to my house? I asked. No, she said quickly. No, I don't think so. He mentioned you. He said you think you're too good for him and you're judging him and you. My hands clenched around my phone. Mom, I said, if he comes here, I'm calling the police. Silence. Then my mom's voice turned icy. Don't be dramatic, she said. You know how that would look. How that would look. Not. Are you safe? Not. I'm sorry. Not. He shouldn't do that, just what will people think? I'm not playing anymore, I said, voice shaking. I'm hanging up. Lauren, she started. I ended the call. I stood up and locked my front door, then checked it again. I walked to the back door and locked it. I pulled the blinds down. I turned off the living room lamp so the house looked dark from the outside. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then, at 10:47 p.m., I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. My townhouse complex had a small lot behind it. My parking spot was right outside my back window. I froze. I moved slowly to the window and peeked through the blinds. A car sat crooked in the lot, headlights off. I couldn't see the driver. My breath came fast. I backed away from the window, grabbed my phone, and held it like a weapon. Then I heard it. A thud. Not loud. Just a dull impact. Then another. Then something that sounded like glass cracking. I stepped back to the window and looked again. A figure stood beside my car, arm raised. Tyler. I couldn't see his face clearly in the dark, but I knew the shape of him, the way he moved like the world owed him space. He swung his arm down again. The windshield spiderwebbed. A sound came out of me that wasn't words. I stumbled back, shaking, and my thumb hit the emergency button without thinking. The phone connected. A calm operator voice. 911, what's your emergency? My brother is outside, I whispered, voice trembling. He's destroying my car. He's violent. He's on something. Please send someone. Okay, the operator said, steady. What's your address? I gave it. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. The operator asked me questions. Was he armed? Was he trying to enter the house? I watched through the crack in the blinds as Tyler kicked my driver's side door, denting it in, then laughed. Actually laughed, like breaking my things was funny. Then he looked up, and even through the dark, I felt his gaze land on my window. My blood turned to ice. He walked toward my back door, slowly, deliberately. My knees almost gave out. I backed into my kitchen, keeping my phone pressed to my ear. Ma'am, the operator said, stay on the line. Officers are on the way. Do you have a safe place to go? I'm inside, I whispered. The door is locked. Then my back door handle rattled, hard. Tyler yanked it again. Then he pounded on the door with his fist. "Lauren!" he roared. "Open up!" My entire body shook. Tears blurred my vision. "Tyler," I called through the door, voice thin. "Go away." He laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Go away?" he shouted. "You're gonna hide from me? In your little house you think makes you better?" He slammed his fist against the door again, and the cheap townhouse frame shuddered. I pressed my forehead against the wall, trying not to hyperventilate. Then his voice dropped into something quieter, more terrifying. "I know you're in there," he said. "Open the door or I'm gonna make you." I heard him step back. I heard metal scrape. My brain flashed a picture. Tyler grabbing a patio chair, smashing the glass. I couldn't breathe. Then, in the distance, a siren. Tyler froze. I watched through the peephole as red and blue lights reflected off the parking lot pavement. Tyler looked around wildly, then sprinted to his car and peeled out of the lot, tires squealing. I sank to the floor, sobbing. When the officers arrived, I opened the door with shaking hands and stepped onto my porch under the harsh floodlight of their patrol car. One officer, a woman with her hair pulled back tight, looked at my car and then at me. "Is he gone?" she asked. I nodded, wiping my face. "That's my brother," I said. "He's been escalating. He's not stable." The male officer asked for Tyler's name and description. He asked if Tyler had a history of violence. I answered honestly. I didn't protect Tyler with euphemisms. I didn't call it stress. I called it what it was. The officers took photos. They gave me a report number. They told me how to get a protection order. When they left, the neighborhood was quiet again, but I wasn't. I sat on my couch in the dark until 2 a.m., flinching at every sound. The next morning, my mom called. I didn't answer. She called again. I didn't answer. Then she texted, "What did you do?" My chest tightened. I stared at my phone and anger rose up like a fever. I typed back. I called the police because he was braking my car and trying to get into my house. Seconds later, my phone rang again. I answered this time because I wanted her to hear my voice. My mom didn't say hello. "Are you out of your mind?" she snapped. I blinked, stunned. "Mom," I said, voice low. "He tried to break into my house." "He would never hurt you," she insisted. "He was upset. He was just..." "Don't," I cut in, shaking. "Don't say it. Don't say he was stressed like that explains anything." My mom's breath hitched. "You don't understand," she said. "He's spiraling. He needs us. And now you've made it worse." Made it worse. Like Tyler's fist hadn't made it worse. Like the shattered glass wasn't worse. Like my shaking hands weren't worse. "I'm filing for a restraining order," I said. Silence. Then my mom's voice turned into something I'd never heard from her before. Cold panic. "Lauren," she said, "do you realize what that means? That's his record. That follows him. That could ruin his life." I laughed once, sharp, disbelieving. "He's already ruining his life," I said. "And he's trying to ruin mine along the way." My mom's voice rose. "You're being selfish," she cried. "He's family." And there it was. The family rule. Tyler could do anything, and the rest of us had to absorb it because of DNA. I felt something in me settle, like a stone dropping into place. "Mom," I said quietly, "if you want to keep calling this love, you can. But I'm done being the thing he breaks." I hung up. On Monday morning, I walked into the Franklin County Courthouse with my stomach in knots and my hair pulled into a tight ponytail like armor. I brought everything. Photos of my windshield, the police report, screenshots of Tyler's texts from months ago, angry, erratic, full of threats that I'd brushed off because I didn't want to be dramatic. I sat in a plastic chair among strangers who looked like they'd also run out of options. A woman next to me held a toddler. A man stared at the floor with bruises on his cheekbone. I realized, sitting there, that I belonged in that room more than I belonged in my parents' living room. Because everyone in that courthouse was dealing in reality, no one was calling it stress. When my number was called, I stood on legs that felt like they didn't belong to me and walked up to the counter. The clerk was kind but brisk, sliding forms toward me. I filled them out, my handwriting shaky, the words feeling heavy. Respondent has threatened me. Respondent has damaged my property. I fear for my safety. Seeing it on paper made it real in a way my family had refused to. The judge granted a temporary order that day, pending a hearing. When I walked back out into the winter air, my breath puffed white and my hands were numb, but I felt, strangely, clear. Terrified, yes, but clear. That night my dad called. He never called, not unless it was serious. I answered, heart pounding. "Hey," I said. His voice sounded older than I remembered. "Lauren," he said quietly, "your mom told me." I waited. A long pause. Then he sighed. "Your mother's a mess," he said. "Tyler's furious." I closed my eyes. "Dad?" I said, voice tight. He broke my car and tried to get in. What was I supposed to do? Another pause. And then, softly, my dad said something that almost made me cry for a different reason. "I saw the pictures," he murmured. "And you weren't wrong." My throat tightened. I could hear my mom in the background, muffled, saying something like, "Tell her she's tearing this family apart." My dad lowered his voice. "I'm not saying it's easy," he said. "I'm not saying your mom will understand, but I'm tired, Lauren." The confession cracked something open in me. "Tired of what?" I whispered. "Tired of walking on eggshells," he said. "Tired of pretending. Tired of being scared in my own house." I swallowed hard. "Then help me," I said. "Stop protecting him. He needs consequences." My dad exhaled, shaky. "I don't know if your mother can," he admitted. "I'm not asking her to," I said. "I'm asking you to stop asking me to be his punching bag." Silence. Then my dad said, "Okay." Just one word. But it felt like the first real thing he'd ever given me. The hearing was set for 2 weeks later. Those 2 weeks were the longest of my life. Tyler texted me nonstop from unknown numbers. He left voicemails from blocked calls. He swung between rage and pleading like a pendulum. "You think you're so perfect. You're dead to me. Lauren, please. I wasn't myself. I'll make you regret this. You're ruining me." My mom sent paragraphs that read like guilt wrapped in prayer. "Families stick together. God hates division. He needs forgiveness, not punishment." I stopped responding. I started documenting. I learned how to screenshot and email myself timestamps. I learned how to change my routine. Different grocery store, different route home. I installed a Ring camera even though I'd always thought they were paranoid. I started sleeping with my phone under my pillow like I was 13 again, waiting for a parent to call me downstairs. My friends found out when I finally admitted why I was jumpy. My best friend Erica came over with Thai takeout and sat on my couch while I showed her the dented car door and the cracked glass. She didn't say, "But he's your brother." She didn't say, "Maybe you should talk it out." She said, "Lauren, this is not safe." And then she said the sentence I didn't realize I'd been waiting to hear my whole life. "You don't owe anyone access to you." On the morning of the hearing, my hands shook so badly I spilled coffee on my coat. I walked into the courtroom and saw my mother sitting on a bench, face tight, eyes red like she'd been crying. Next to her sat Tyler, in a collared shirt like he was playing respectable. His hair was freshly cut, his jaw was clenched. He looked at me and smiled. Not a friendly smile, a warning. My dad sat 2 seats away from them, shoulders hunched, staring at the floor. My stomach twisted. Tyler's lawyer, a man with a smooth voice and an expensive watch, stood and spoke like Tyler was simply misunderstood, like I was overreacting, like this was a family disagreement that had gotten out of hand. He said Tyler had been under emotional duress. He said Tyler had been experiencing anxiety. He said Tyler had no intention to harm. I watched my mom nod along like she was listening to gospel. Then it was my turn. I stood up, palms sweating, and my voice came out steadier than I expected. I want to be very clear, I said. This is not about hurt feelings. This is about safety. I described the night he broke my windshield. I described the pounding on my door. I described my fear. I described the escalation over years, the holes in walls, the screaming, the threats. I handed over photos. I handed over texts. I handed over the police report. The judge listened without reacting, but I watched his eyes sharpen when he looked at the images. When Tyler's lawyer tried to interrupt, the judge held up a hand. "Let her finish," he said. I finished. And then the judge asked Tyler a simple question. "Have you sought treatment for substance abuse or anger management?" Tyler's jaw tightened. "I don't have a problem," he said quickly. "I was just having a bad night." A bad night. He said it so casually. Like a bad night just happens to people. Like you wake up and accidentally terrorize your sister. The judge looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, "Given the evidence presented, the temporary order will be made permanent for 1 year." My mother inhaled sharply like she'd been stabbed. Tyler surged to his feet. "This is bull," he started. "Sit down," the judge snapped, voice suddenly hard. Tyler froze. His face went red. His fists clenched. For a second, I thought he would actually lunge. But the room, this room, didn't bend around Tyler. There were consequences here. Tyler sat. My mother stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Outside the courtroom, she caught up to me in the hallway. "How could you do that?" she hissed, grabbing my arm. I yanked away. "Don't touch me," I said, voice flat. Her eyes widened, offended. "I'm your mother," she said, like that was a badge that granted her control. "And I'm your daughter," I said, "the daughter who's been begging you to see what's happening for years." She shook her head, tears spilling. "He's sick," she cried. "He needs us." "And I needed you," I said quietly. "I needed you to protect me. And you didn't." My dad came up behind her, looking haunted. My mom turned to him. "Jim, say something," she demanded. "Tell her she's gone too far." My dad looked at me. His eyes were wet. And then he did something I didn't expect. He stepped beside me. Not in front of me. Beside me. "Carol," he said, voice rough. "She didn't go too far." "We did." My mom stared at him, stunned. Tyler came barreling out behind them, face twisted. "This is your fault," he shouted at me. "You've always hated me." I didn't flinch. I looked him straight in the eyes and said the truth, as plain as I could. "I don't hate you," I said. "I'm afraid of you, and that's on you." Tyler's mouth opened, but no words came out. For a split second, I saw something flicker behind his rage. Shock, maybe. That I'd named the thing everyone had been dodging. Then he spat on the ground near my shoes and stormed off. My mom sobbed like I'd killed someone. I walked out into the cold air, my breath shaking out of me, and I felt grief and relief at the same time. Because a part of me still loved my family, and another part of me finally loved myself enough to stop sacrificing my safety to keep their story intact. The next months were brutal. My mom stopped inviting me to family dinners. She told my aunt I was punishing Tyler. My cousins looked at me like I was the one who'd done something shameful. Tyler tried to contact me anyway, messages through friends. accidental run-ins at the grocery store, showing up once at my workplace parking lot until security escorted him off. Every time, I documented. Every time, I stood firm. The restraining order wasn't a magic spell. It didn't fix everything, but it gave me something I'd never had in my family. A line that mattered. I started rebuilding in small, stubborn ways. I replaced my windshield. I paid the deductible myself. I didn't ask my parents for help. I took a self-defense class, not because I wanted to fight, but because I wanted my body to remember it had power. I stopped answering calls that made my chest tighten. I started answering calls that made me laugh. Erica and I made Sunday dinners together, real dinners, not just takeout, where the loudest sound in the room was a playlist and not someone's rage. My dad began calling me more, not always, not perfectly, but enough that I started to believe he was waking up. One afternoon, he showed up at my townhouse with a bag of groceries and a quiet expression. "I told your mother I'm not giving Tyler money anymore," he said. My heart pounded. "What did she say?" I asked. My dad gave a bitter little laugh. "She said I'm abandoning him," he replied. "Then she said you've brainwashed me." He looked at me, eyes tired. "But I've been abandoning you," he said softly. "For a long time. I didn't see it until it got too big to ignore." I swallowed past the lump in my throat. "I'm glad you see it now," I said. "I just wish it didn't have to get to this." He nodded. "Me too," he said. A few weeks later, my mom showed up at my door unannounced. I saw her through the Ring camera, standing stiffly on my porch like she was waiting to be judged. I opened the door, but I stayed in the doorway, not stepping aside. Her eyes darted around my living room like she wanted to find proof of some new life that didn't include her. "Hi," she said, voice small. "Hi," I said. She swallowed. I don't know what I'm doing," she admitted, and her voice cracked. It was the closest I'd ever heard her come to honesty. I didn't rush to comfort her. I didn't fill the silence. I waited. My mom looked down at her hands. "Tyler's not okay," she whispered. I exhaled slowly. "I know," I said. She nodded, tears spilling. "He screamed at me last night," she said. "He threw a lamp, and She shook her head like she couldn't believe her own words. I was scared. I felt something ache in my chest. Not triumph, not vindication, just sadness. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm sorry you're finally feeling what I've been feeling." My mom flinched, like the sentence hurt, because it was true. She wiped her face. "I thought if I loved him hard enough, it would fix him," she whispered. I looked at her, and I saw it clearly. My mom had built her identity around saving Tyler. Letting go of that story meant admitting she couldn't control him. That love wasn't a leash. That denial wasn't protection. "I need boundaries," I said gently. "If you want to be in my life, you cannot bring him to me. You cannot ask me to drop the order. You cannot guilt me for protecting myself." My mom nodded slowly, like she was learning a new language. "I don't know if I can," she admitted. I held her gaze. "Then you can't," I said. "Not yet." She let out a shaky breath. For a long moment, we just stood there, two women in a doorway, staring at the wreckage of the family we'd been pretending was fine. Finally, my mom said, Can I at least sit and talk?" I hesitated. Then I opened the door wider, but I didn't give up my line. She sat on my couch like a guest, not like an owner of my life, and that mattered. We didn't fix everything that day. We didn't hug it out. We didn't magically become a healthy family in one conversation. But it was the first time my mother sat in my home and listened to my truth without rewriting it into something softer. And for me, that was a beginning. Tyler didn't suddenly get better. People like Tyler don't get better because you wish it. Months later, my dad called me and said Tyler had been arrested for DUI after clipping a parked car and trying to run. My stomach dropped. My mom cried, of course. But this time, my dad's voice didn't sound like panic. It sounded like resolve. "We're not bailing him out," he said quietly. "Not this time." I sat on my kitchen floor with my back against the cabinet, breathing through the fear that still lived in my body. "Are you safe?" my dad asked. That question, simple, direct, hit me harder than any apology. "Yes," I whispered. "I'm safe." My dad exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years. "I'm proud of you," he said, voice thick. "You did what we couldn't." After I got off the phone, I stared at my hands and realized they weren't shaking. Not like they used to. Because somewhere along the way, I had stopped measuring my worth by how much chaos I could absorb. I had stopped believing that love meant tolerating harm. I had learned that you can love someone and still refuse to let them destroy you. A year later, when the restraining order was up for renewal, I walked back into the courthouse with the same documents updated. New incidents, new messages, new proof. I wasn't afraid of being called dramatic anymore. I wasn't afraid of being called selfish. I wasn't afraid of what it looked like. Because the life I had built, quiet, stable, mine, was worth defending. The judge renewed it. Outside the courthouse, the sky was bright and cold, and the air felt clean in my lungs. My mom texted me that night. "I'm not ready to forgive myself, but I'm starting to understand you." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "Understanding is a start. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be built on reality, not excuses." She replied with one word, "Okay." It wasn't a Hallmark ending. It wasn't neat. But it was real. And real was what I wanted now. Because the message I wish someone had tattooed into my family's rules when I was a teenager is this: you are not cruel for choosing safety. You are not disloyal for setting boundaries. And you don't owe anyone your peace just because they share your last name. I used to think being the bigger person meant swallowing pain. Now I know it means refusing to pass that pain forward. And the day I stopped protecting Tyler from consequences was the day I finally started protecting myself. Fully, unapologetically, like my life mattered. Because it does.